fantasy, not to be taken too seriously. Now it's grim reality. Again. It's as if the real world is using image boards as a template on what to be and what to do. Algorithm fiction. Do you like cape shit, Anon? How about other Hollywood stuff? Music perhaps? Have you noticed how sterile fiction has become? How it caters to the lowest common denominator and follows the same template over and over again. How music is just auto-tuned nigs and basic blandness. The writer's strike never ended. Algorithms and computer programs are manufacturing modern fiction. No human being is behind these things. This is why anime looms so large. Even a simple anime has heart because there's actual people behind it, and we all intuitively feel this. Fake people. No, not NPCs. YouTube people who talk about this or that, and quite possibly many politicians, actors, and so forth may not actually exist. In fact, I am sure of it. CGI and deep fakes are far more advanced than we are led to believe, and we can't trust our eyes anymore. Many people, events, news, and so on may be wholly fictional. The internet on your smartphone is not the same internet as on your PC. Try it out for yourself. Go to a popular website with a lot of traffic. 4chan, Faceshit, Plebit. Any site with a massive user base and fast content will do. Spend a few days randomly checking it out on your PC and your phone. You will soon notice that from time to time, at irregular intervals, as far as I've witnessed, the same site as seen on your phone will be wholly different than the version on your PC. Entire threads, numerous and well replied, will be on one but not the other. The whole board will be different. My last suspicion is easier to take. I might have a feeling we're in a strange kind of civil war. An internal one. I think Zuckerberg and other tech guys were all on 4chan as anons at some point, maybe even now. They drew from the same well as us, but went in their own direction. Thank you for your time. Feel free to insult me if you want. Old/co/mrads never die. They just grow thick skins.
What seemed to me to be like some silly steam shovelware, given the nature of the character in the advertisements being obvious horny bait, turned into a rather strange feeling experience. The game is called Disillusion, and at first glance once playing it, I immediately thought it was just a Hilux rip-off. It's ugly, it is painful to play and rather unsettling in a shitty way. The game opens up with you. Once you reach this tower, it turns into an abhorrent SMT-style dungeon crawler. It begins to throw obvious nods to Buddhism whatever, and early dialogue is rather random and silly in an earthbound kind of way, but still boring. Quickly you are introduced to the green girl Melon Pick related, who has more obvious ties to the Greek muse of tragedy, and all that yada yada. Basically assumed that was all the plot I would get, as it seemed very quickly how obvious things were going to unfold. Mel seemed to exist at first glance strictly to string along this facade with very predictable twists. Things begin to get very odd with the music, while the game opens with very standard MIDI tracks you would expect for this kind of title. It quickly devolves into strange chants, prayers, long samples of old children's cartoons, I think, as well as what I think is a full-on abduction story within the music later. The music was very unsettling for such a goofy game, and it is what drove me to slog through the outdated gameplay to see what the hell this was all about. The game really amps up in the odd factor if you look for it off the beaten path. I had encountered a dancing skeleton group who had complained modern medicine was to keep mankind in shackles, and Jews were keeping them enslaved, another that complained about German car engineering. One of the strangest characters I encountered in this game was a large white figure holding a burned corpse, explaining to me accidental death was impossible due to timeline shifting and such. This is only the surface of the odd characters. What I thought was a basic narrative was much stranger. The goal of the game is presumably to reach nirvana or enlightenment, as that was made obvious very quickly, but come the end of game, spoilers I guess, it turns out you can never reach this nirvana, and you have the option of killing the big baddie or joining the big baddie. Should you kill him you get nothing, and if you join him, it is implied he shifts the afterlife into a more Christian ideal heaven, and sends you to earth, as what I assume is Jesus Christ. This is only scratching the surface. I cracked open the game's files and decrypted them, and there is an entire book on the lore of what the hell is going on, and more that I could not make sense of. While never figuring out how to do it, there are alternate endings. Turns out the main character is schizophrenic. I think, and schizos cannot reach nirvana or something. It is never said this what he has, but the last dialogue in the game seems to imply this, and as does the green waifu, who also seems to imply giving you the schizo illness. I know this is a bit of a ramble post, but I feel weird after playing this. Words do not describe it. Few more things. A sphinx that gives you a magic shekel, it says shekel, to talk to crows that appear everywhere, bizarre crashes that say violence game files, have artwork of children with horns covered in blood, but this is nowhere to be found in game. From what I can tell, music sometimes just turns into unsettling noise or ringing weird camera footage of ambulances, trees, trains. Bizarre Arabic phrases, the list goes on. Overall pretty shit game, just so weird I wish I did not play it. Anyway, post your Computer X experiences if you want.
We advance in medical science only for the immortal masters. We slaves will die of famine and illness. Tools will evolve, but as will our chains. They may attempt to kill a god and reach for a throne. It is us who are the threat, our wars, our bombs and our tribalism. We destroy more than we build. And what we build most is means to destroy more. I just had a fucking thought. Be me, 15 at the time. Meet new kid at my high school. Norwegian, but speaks English well. Let's call him Wojak. Wojak is quite shy, and an introvert, definitely. No reason to talk to him, so I don't. One day before school I see some popular kids talking to him. Not actually having a conversation but just talking to the quiet kid as a joke. Why don't you ever talk, you totally should hang out with us, etc. It's pretty obvious they don't actually care about him. He can tell, visibly uncomfortable. Feel really bad for him. Sit next to him at lunch. Hey man, what's up? Wouldn't you know it, we hit it off. Actually really interesting guy. Has some really cool stories of life back in Norway. Tells me about how he used to go skiing, skating, etc. Tells me he went hunting with his dad even though it wasn't legal. Badass DOCX. I tell him about my life. Not nearly as many interesting stories. Whatever, I still hold his attention. We start talking more in the classes we have together. Eventually I invite him to my friend group. The boys love him. Isn't so shy anymore, gets a lot more comfortable with us. Got comfortable enough to tell me about his fucked up childhood. Otherwise very charismatic and intelligent. Funny, good at reading the room. His only issue is that sometimes he says really bizarro shit and he gets angry too easy. Like we were at a party and he was smoking a cigarette, my friend for some reason thought it would be funny to just take the cigarette out of his mouth. Wojak fucking flipped, snatched it back and shoved my friend hard. We chalked it up to the alcohol, but looking back, he definitely had some anger issues. He used to love to go hunting, but not with a rifle in the woods. He would buy animal traps from the Home Depot and wait till the animals were almost starved. Do shit like dangle food in front of them, kick them, etc. Usually he let them go, but I think that's just cause we were there. One time me and my GF at the time were in the woods for a stroll and we found a trap that he left. We had run across a few traps, but this was bizarre. There was a fox in there. Its neck was turned to face the back, like an owl. It was covered in blood, and its nose was broken. Leg was bent out of shape. Worst part was it was still breathing. The fucker beat the shit out of it and left it to suffer. My GF was so freaked out she made me stop talking with him for several days. Eventually I just called him and asked what the fuck. He said it wasn't him, told me this long ass story about how some random fox must have trapped itself and some teenager must have just beaten it. Wojak was a very smooth guy once he came out of his shell, so I had trouble not believing him. My GF didn't buy it, but when he told it to her she said it made sense. Very, very smooth. After that I never saw another cage in the forest again. Forward to my 18th birthday party. Party was taking place at a local club. This fucker dips halfway through the party. Shows up later sweaty with a red nose. Acting floaty and ethereal. Thought he might just be drunk, but his nose was bleeding. Looking back, I think it was broken. Some kid went missing at the club on my birthday. I never pieced 2 and 2 together. For the next few years he did nothing but act sus as hell. Would disappear for stretches of time. Would appear smelling like chemicals. Random blood stains, bruises. His anger was basically gone, but he was still very charismatic and perfect. That's why nobody ever thought it could be him. Never drank, never smoked. Extreme Patrick Bateman vibes. 2 weeks ago he got shot. Apparently he tried to stab someone, but the guy had quicker fingers. That's what made me consider this theory in the first place. His family is gone, so the funeral was mostly his old friends. When I realized, I spoke to my friends and then the police. Basically everyone agreed Wojak was definitely somehow fucked up. A few friends told stories about him showing off knives, saying really fucked up shit like, "I'm gonna force feed that bastard his own fingers," being kinda emotionless. We told the police and they're launching a full-scale investigation. TFW, one of my best friends was a serial killer.
This happened around 6 months ago. I have a regular side job of feeding cows for my grandfather on his 3 properties, with all 3 being lumped together adding up to maybe 300 acres. The service truck I drive is a diesel pickup and doesn't drive very fast, and starting work at 5 o'clock in winter equals nighttime work, which BTW sucks balls. I filled up the 6 buckets that I needed for the 2 farms I feed after the first. The second farm is only accessible from a very small and rural back road. I pull up to the gate that goes inwards towards the forest. It opens